Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Groundwork, the CKU Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Devora. I'm joined today by the one and only Sergio Correa. How you doing, Serge?
Good, doing good.
About time I got you on this
I
podcast, man.
know, I know. We tried to set something up a while back, but we got busy lives. So
Exactly. Serge, so I hope you've watched some of our episodes. So how this works is I'm going to ask you a couple questions. We're going to go through them, but I really want to hear your story. So these questions are just going to tie into that. But let's go ahead and get started. Who are you?
my name is Sergio Correa. Born and raised here in Salina, Kansas. Currently a coach for CKU. I coach the U19 high school boys teams and the U13 boys teams. We got two teams in each. Fill in with other teams when they need a coach to fill in for games and or practices. So that's who I am.
Born here in Salina, right? Where did you get into soccer?
I got into soccer, I would say, I think it was in about the fourth or fifth grade. My godfather made a team for the Parks and Rec team. And we were primarily Hispanics. We were Aztecas. Actually, one of his sons is a CKU coach now as well. He's got some grandkids that play in the club. But that's where I got started. Back when I was young, there was no club teams, just Parks and Rec. So I got started then and played all the way through middle school. And then about middle school, there was no club. So the next step for me was to be able to play soccer, was to play in a men's, Hispanic men's adult league that my dad started playing in. So I was about 14 years old, 13, 14, started playing against grown men. So that was my club experience, and played that until finally I started playing high school soccer my junior year. That was the first year that they brought soccer as a school sport to Salina. And then from there, played some college, went out to California and then played men's league up until about 6, 7 years ago.
Where in California did you play it?
I was at Holy Names University. It was Holy Names College then, and then it was Holy Names University they switched to.
You know, that college is super weird because we have another coach, shout out to Juan Maldonado, was actually supposed to go to Holy Names. Things happened. He ended up not being able to go there. Then it came out to Kansas Wesleyan, and, the rest is history. But it's just funny how that college has such a tie here in Salina, and I bet they don't even know that.
Yeah, it's funny, the connection there, but it's all from the same people, back from Mike Dibini days and his brother Murad. So Mike was recruiting a lot of people here. Well, his brother had gotten a job out there, so he started recruiting out that way, and that's where I got recruited. Me, a cousin, a couple friends here from Salina. We went out there to play, and I think that's the reason Juan was going to go play there as well, because there was a player that played for Kansas Wesleyan that had got a coaching job there, and that's how he almost went out there.
Wow.
Small world.
Small world, right? Anyways, so let's go on with the next question is, what is your journey being like as a coach from your first team to where you are now?
So, I always get asked, or I ask other people, especially a lot of the high school players, do you ever envision yourself coaching? I never got asked that, never really thought about it. I love the game, love to play, played for a lot of various different coaches. And I know the game, how to play the game. As far as coaching it, I didn't know. And really what did it for me is once I had kids and put them into sports, and I guess I've always been a competitive person, and I'm a firm believer with the discipline and hard work. Sometimes that can trump talent, because there's kids that have talent, but sometimes they don't push themselves, to the highest standards and don't get to their greatest point achievements, right? Where other kids I've seen that struggle, but they put the hard work, they can overcome and become very good players. And so my kids got in, playing youth YMCA soccer and stuff like that. And then there's parent coaches, right? But what I saw right off the bat, my son's team, they had actually some decent coaches. There were some Bethany players, I believe. I really like what they were doing. They're focusing on the fundamentals, right? And I like that. But my daughter got put on a team, and unfortunately, they had a parent coach that didn't know anything about soccer. She literally was teaching them to play kickball, and that was hard to watch. And that was I told my wife, I complained, and she's like, well, why don't you coach them? And so that's when I made the decision. I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be the best coach. I want to be able to develop. And even to now, my coaching style is development, right? The fundamentals, even the pros, right? In practices, they don't go away from the fundamentals, and that's kind of where I started. And so then I started coaching YMCA. Then my son's team, we played for a few years there, got very competitive, got more players. We made the jump over to club from there. And at that time, it was the Salina Soccer Club. We did that up until it unfortunately got dismantled by other clubs that came into Salina. So I think I am the only coach that's actually coached through all the clubs that have come through Salina. So I've seen all the good and the bad, but things are looking really good, real positive, especially now where things are at. So growing the sport back in Salina, even in this country, it's growing, but back to the early days of Salina Soccer Club, it was pretty big. They got the complex built, and they had a lot of teams. And then when other clubs came in, it just wasn't the homegrown roots, and that's what it is again, and that's what I love about it.
So I want to touch on a couple of things that you said right there. Was you were one of the only coaches who has seen every single club that's come through Salina and really dismantle what Salina had built. Um, how did that make you feel as someone who not only had a kid in the system but was also a coach in that system?
It was tough, Unfortunately, some of these big clubs in big cities, they're doing it to monetize, right? It's a business, unfortunately. It does take money to run programs, to pay coaches, facilities, and I get all that. But there's also a way to do it at a reasonable cost, right? We're a small market. Um, so I knew when those other clubs came in, um, they weren't about Salina, right? To them, it was, can they make money off of players from here, and can they find any great players that they can now pull over to their elite teams, ECNL, NPL, whatever. And unfortunately, I always had that feeling. I had been asked to be on the board back when it was the Salina Soccer Club. And that first year, I was just kind of sitting in, learning, seeing how things went. And that's kind of when they did the transition. Um, I didn't get to vote on it, but I got to see, and they asked opinions, and I was against it because I knew what would happen, and it is exactly what happened. I had a team. They came in, they split my team. Um, they dictated everything as far as, what leagues we played, what tournaments we did, and what players had to pay. And so it was unfortunate. We lost good players, and kind of that's what muddied the waters around for soccer clubs. So it was tough. So I think that's the reason why I've always kind of stuck with it. A lot of the players now they're going off to college. I've been able to coach a lot of them all the way through. So great learning experience. But for me, it's always been player first. I don't do it for the money. I've never done it for it. I do it for the love of the game, but more so the development of these players and the passion that they have for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've worked with you for many years, and I understand that we don't do this for the money. I don't think anyone who sat in that chair has told me, "Oh, I coach because of the money." It's because we care. But going back to you, talk to me about your play style. How do you develop your teams to be successful? What is your motive?
So play style. Well, I guess my motivation for players, I always first want to see what are players' goals, or what do they want to do from soccer. Are they here just because their friends are here? Are they here because they want to better themselves, right? They want to play a high level when they get into high school. They want to go to college. They want to go pro. So really, that's where I start. Obviously, when they're really young, they may not know why. They want to be the next Messi, which is great. And so that's kind of where I start to see as far as development paths. I've always been a firm believer once, we got enough numbers of having two teams. I hated the fact that when you only have one team, if that player is not at the level of the rest, it's very hard to include them. I seen early on that those players, they play for a few seasons and they kind of seen that, yeah, this is too high level for me. And then you'd lose players, right? Or vice versa. Players too good for this team, needs to be somewhere else. So I always wanted to kind of focus on keeping a couple teams, right? There's kind of a higher level, say, Division One, and then another level team, right? Whether it was recreational, kind of where I started, and then whether it was a lower level. But both teams having the same fundamentals. I coach them exactly the same. It's just the players that they play with. And so that's kind of where I guess my style, or development is first and foremost, right? Not everybody develops at the same speed, and or with the same type of techniques. And so being able to have the correct players to play with and teams to play on helps that pathway for those players, right? It's not too difficult, because I've seen where some players it becomes difficult, and they want to give up, right? And so at the youth levels, you got to make it fun, first and foremost. Once they have fun, then they'll start creating a passion for it. Then they create that drive that themselves take it to that next level, because it's hard for a coach, and I've seen that's the thing as a coach and a parent. It's hard to, you don't want to push a kid, both sides. You got to kind of let them want to, and once they're into it 100%, then you can support that aspect.
Yep, no, that's well said right there. Um, how do you see the club growing? I've seen it on the front with the youngers all the way to the UPSL level, but I want to see, how do you see it growing?
I love the way it's growing. It's great. I've said it for years. Salina needed to get their identity back, and CKU has done that now, where it's CKU all the way from the kindergartners all the way up to the UPSL, which I helped out the last couple seasons as well. So I love that, because we've had some really great teams over the last couple of years, and they're either part of a different club or they just had a different name. We go to tournaments out of town and people will be like, "Hey, where are you guys from? Where are you guys from?" And they'll be like, "Well, how many clubs does Salina have?" Right? It makes it sound like we're a big city with like 10 clubs, when in actuality it was 10 different teams with 10 different names. So now we're back to one club, one identity, and I love that. And so obviously yourself, I know Juan and others, Brian, starting with the littles and the young, getting those numbers of players to come through. So, and which we've done with the high schools, right, the boys as well. The reason why I went CKU, because we are truly Central Kansas. We started inviting players from Hayes, McPherson, Hutchinson, even Wichita players that have joined and to play with us. So I love that it's truly a Central Kansas, and we're not a club that's affiliated with someone that's nationwide, right? We're homegrown.
That's well said right there. I'm going to switch up the tone a little bit. So, do you have any fun traditions before games, before tournaments that you like to still believe in?
Yeah, we have a few. Obviously, when we're younger, the teams, we would always try to get together, whether it's before tournaments or at the end of the season. But one that I do that I think I got you hooked on is our championship socks, right? And it happened, I think we were in a Kansas City tournament, I believe, and it downpoured on us. We were soaking wet, and it was a tough tournament. Um, it wasn't for sure if we were going to get into the finals, but we ran to the clothing stores, I don't know, Marshalls or something, and I bought some socks, some Adidas socks. And as I got there, the other coaches, they were soaked too. I'm like, hey, we got back, we got the final results from the games that were playing after us, and we were able to get into the championship game. And so we wanted to have some fresh, dry socks. So we put them on, and I said, okay, if we win with these socks, we're going to call them our championship socks. And so every time we make it to a championship game, we put our championship socks on. And I think to this day, I, I haven't jotted it all down, but I think we're probably almost undefeated with the Sox. We may have lost maybe one.
I think we're undefeated. If my knowledge strikes me right, there's a couple pictures of us with some medals in those same championship socks.
So it's funny because all the players now, they always ask us, "You guys wearing your championship socks?" So cool tradition.
It is cool. It's something that definitely brings the light into coaching, right? One of the things that I really do strive on is because we coach year round. I feel like sometimes we get burned out. And it's the little things like that that really do bring us back to this is just a game and we're just here to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we do silly things to bring joy, not to the team, but within each other's, right? Because we are each other's supporting cast, right? I help you as much as you help me. And so when we do stuff like that, it really does show that we're just here to have fun. We are competitive. We're one of the most competitive teams. For those of you who don't know, Sergio and I have been coaching together going on now to 7 years. Yeah. He's actually the one who opened the door for me and brought me in and has really shown me what it means to be a coach. And I owe you my career. I wouldn't be where I am without you. And so it just shows that you surround yourself around the right people and you can be very successful.
Yeah, and that's why I brought you in, because I saw you had a love for the game, a passion for it. And you like the youth, right? You wanted to kind of pass the reins on to the next generations, right, of what you've learned. Obviously still being young, but still learning. And even me, I've been coaching for 14, 15 years now, and you never stop learning. You know, that's the beauty of the game too, which keeps it exciting.
Oh, for sure. So now I'm going to kind of go back to the coaching aspect of this. I know the answer to this, but what was there? Name the moment that you were like, the times have changed. It's time to me to develop with the game. Name a moment when you changed your tactics completely.
I would say was when we started playing league outside club. Obviously, once was with a club, but playing now against the big cities, Kansas City and Wichita. We're always, still to this day, going to be the underdogs because of the numbers. So that's where I learned, like I said, hard work, discipline, passion can trump talent. Because some of these teams, I mean, they're hand-picked players, but I feel that we can compete against top-tier teams because of the chemistry our teams have. We might not always have the best talent, but I feel that we have players that are very disciplined and play with a high level of passion and know each other, because we keep these players playing together year round now, right? When I first started, we played spring, fall. Now we play spring, summer, fall, winter. And so these boys have a chemistry that it's awesome. I can't, it's hard to describe, but I've seen us be able to compete and beat teams that I would say are better than us. But somehow, some way, whether it's the players, the coaches, we find ways to elevate the team and or players.
No, of course. So you go back, you're coaching now 15 years, right? You've coached your oldest boy since he was very young. I remember when I was a player, we would go watch your games just because how exciting your team was. I've been blessed to join you these last 7 years to watch that growth with you. How does it feel that he's going into his senior year, and this is potentially the last season you'll ever coach him?
It's exciting and sad at the same time, right? Time flies. You hate to see them, or you love to see them grow up, but they just grow up so fast. So I've actually was just thinking about that this last week. It's like, man, this is going to be his last season that I could coach him, right? But I'm excited to see too, right? To kind of be on the other side, which I've got a little bit of experience of that, because when he was playing with other teams, he was doing some NPL, ECNL. I wasn't his coach, so I was on the dad side of it, which is very hard sometimes. But I was able to, at least I kind of got a little bit of that taste or experience already. So, I don't know, just to be able to watch him play. I taught him what I can, never stop learning. So hopefully, he can still continue to learn and develop because he's a good player, and I hope he can go far with it, whether it's soccer or other sports, because he does do multiple sports.
Oh, yeah. Well, Serge, last question before I let you go. Uh, what's my favorite question I always ask everyone that I talk to is if there's something that you can share with every CKU player out there, what is the message you want to give out to them?
So if they're looking to want to play soccer, it's just be disciplined, have fun, but just be disciplined. 10, 15 minutes every day goes a long way. Especially for these, a lot of these players that we see coming in, because the sport is growing, right? These players now that we've been able to see, but the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Neymars, right? That's who these kids want to be. And that doesn't happen practicing 2 nights a week for 1 or 2 seasons. It's work outside of regular practice and stuff like that. And as coaches, we can see a lot of that. So that's what I would say to the kids is just be disciplined. If it's something truly you want to do, put in the work and have fun. That's the thing too. You got to have fun. It can't always be all business. You got to keep fun in the game. It kind of helps you drive forward and keep it exciting. If not, they get burnt out, just like with anything. So,
no, of course. Well, Serge, thank you again for joining us on this episode. A couple announcements for you guys. We are hosting a soccer golf tournament here in Salina, August 3rd and 4th. We're doing everything from pre-K all the way to high school. So please check out the description for the registration link on that. Lunch is included, for those who are wondering. Lunch is included. But Serge, thank you again for joining us. And I hope to see you guys next week on my next episode of Groundworks. Thanks.
Thanks.